All right. Welcome in. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to, for now, the Everything NYJ podcast. We're going to be rebranding soon, but we'll get into that at another time. Right now, I have a very special guest. This man, when he talks about the draft, it's like a draft gospel. Like I could just listen to him. He could go on and on for days. Ladies and gentlemen, the very special Dom C of Project Podcast Prospect. Dom, how you doing?
I'm good, Liam, man. Like we were chatting before backstage. It's been a while, man. I haven't seen you around, so I'm glad to see you're still here and still grinding, man.
Yeah.
Always appreciated your stuff. Always enjoyed your company. Good dude. So
Yeah, Elmo says you're finally back from your long, long hiatus. I am. It's been a while, and we're still working out some kinks. Like I said, not going to announce any big special announcements tonight, but there is a co-host in the works. The rebrand is, as you guys can kind of see, it's getting there. But enough of that. We have plenty to get into. The New York Jets. It's March now, and the team is still, for lack of a better word, a circus. I mean, it's the off season, and this is when the New York Jets really shine. They really prove to us who they really are. You got players, you got coaches leaving, you got players bashing the team from other teams, you
yeah,
got former Jets, you got Mecole Hardman. It's never ending with this team, and I find it very hard to stay positive. I really do, and like this is the one year I feel like I should be super excited. Like last year, I was super excited. Aaron Rodgers, around this time last year, we were talking about possibly getting him. I didn't even think it was a possibility at first. I really
Mm.
thought it was just like a pipe dream. And then it gets more realistic, and then we got that waiting period where is he coming? Is he not? What's going on? And Elmo says it best. We win the offseason every year, and we do.
yeah,
We do.
yeah.
Hello, Armin. Good to see you here. Um, but but yeah, it's like there was a lot of excitement last year. And even the end of that 2022 season where you lose 6, 7 in a row to close out the season, really disappointing, playoffs on the brink. We knew that we were just one player, the most important piece, the quarterback. We were one quarterback away. We get the piece, he goes down, terrible season. And I just haven't really recovered, to be completely honest. Like that excitement's just not there.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
think,
listen, I don't think that's a bad thing though. I think that um most Jet fans and maybe even myself like set, when the wheels were in motion last year and everything in the media was all a buzz about the Jets. I think everyone's expectations, went from 0 to 100 real quick just to crash back down. So I have no problem with having a not necessarily pessimistic view, but more so just like like I'm just going to temper my expectations and see what happens.
yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Dan. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's really the best way to do it.
Hmm.
And because, like I said, I feel like this team has a lot more questions than answers. You have Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. Like Garrett Wilson literally said, "You look across the sideline, every other offense looks easier." Why is that?
Yeah.
It's just like it's one thing after another. And like you said, to temper the expectations, I think that's great. I think that really is like the best way. We're not really arguing, but I was talking to somebody on Twitter a little while ago about this, and he's like, "New season, like I'm excited, like let's go." And I'm like, I don't know. For the first time really in my life, I just can't get there. When I was a little bit younger, I had like the green goggles. I was all, yeah, like this is our year, Jets, Jets, Jets. And as I get older, I'm just like my dad, when Aaron Rodgers came to the Jets, he's been a fan his whole life too, and he's in his mid-50s. He goes, "I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. Like, just show me the results." And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, just show me.
Yeah.
I don't want the daily hype videos. I don't need the t-shirt slogans. I don't want to hear all gas, no break, and then you get blown out 41-0. Like, I'm just over it. I'm at the point, and I'm not trying to sound negative, not at all, because I love this team. That's why we do it. I don't want to come out here and bash the team, and I'm sorry if it's too negative for you, Tom. But we got free agency coming up. We got the draft. I feel like we say this every year. This is probably the biggest draft, the biggest offseason, really, for the New York Jets franchise in a very long time. We thought last year was, and it was, but that kind of led us to this point. So
Yeah.
we got free agency right around the corner. I'll start off by asking you this. If you're Joe Douglas, what's the first move you're making as soon as free agency starts?
The, listen. if I'm Joe Douglas, the first move I'm making after free agency starts is hopefully I'm learning from my mistakes last year. Probably, to be honest with you, the first call I'm making is lock up a veteran backup quarterback, whoever that
Yeah.
is. Now, obviously, you know that the tampering period starts Monday. I say that's bullshit. Or sorry, that's bull crap.
No, go ahead. Go
Not-
ahead.
I say it's bullshit. Like these
Yep.
guys, these agents are talking. They know they're already working out deals. Like let's call it what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. They know exactly who's interested and who's going for and who's going to be in the ballpark and so on and so forth. But if we're going to play along like nothing happens until Monday, I'm locking in a backup quarterback. And then you got to listen. You got two returning members on the offensive line. You have one returning member who knows how he's going to play, in AVT. I know we all love AVT, but again, my stance on AVT is, the guy's missed more games than he's played. When he's played, he's awesome, but he's missed more games than he's played. So and he's coming back off of an Achilles injury where, it's not going to be the same for him where he needs that power and that torque and that drive from the bottom up, from the ground up, as it is for someone like Aaron Rodgers, who had that tear in his non-plant foot. So it's going to be a stretch. Like I wouldn't be surprised, Liam, if AVT is not nearly the player we all have come to know and love this season. So you got to do something with this offensive line. So I'm bringing in a backup quarterback. I'm figuring out which one of these free agents, fit the timeline, fit our needs, and going in, bring in one or two guys in, whether it's two tackles, whether it's two interior guys, whether it's a tackle and a tackle and an interior guy. You got to figure something out. You know what I mean? I don't think that's uncommon, uncommon sentiment. Everyone knows that we're going to go as far as this offensive line and the weapons that we're missing will take us. The defense is in good shape. The defense is a really good unit. Yeah, you got to replace a couple replaceable pieces, and then they're and Bryce Huff, but
Yeah.
that's it, man. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and just getting back to AVT real quick, and like the thing is, like you said, he's missed more time than he's played.
Yeah.
Which is definitely concerning. And you don't know where he's lining up. Like the New York Jets are not, they're saying we're going to stick him at one position and leave him there.
Yeah.
I have a real strong feeling that it's going to be at one of the tackle position, probably right tackle if I had to guess. You know better than I do. I believe there's actually more, is it more left tackles or right tackles in the draft?
Well, in the first round of the draft, I mean, where we're picking, I think you probably have a better shot of landing a good right tackle than a left tackle. There's guys that could fall. There's situations where maybe we, like Olufashano, the kid from Penn State, kind of starts to tumble, and he might be there at 10. But more than likely, you're looking at right tackle. But that said, you're not going to find. I don't think AVT is a left tackle.
No.
I think you can get away with him at right tackle. I don't think you want him protecting the blind side, especially coming off this injury. Like I said, I might be a little bit more skeptical on the production to expect out of AVT this year than most. I'm not really banking that he's the guy that we know and love. So we have Joe Tippmann coming back. We don't know when AVT's coming back and what he's going to play like when he is back. And then you got 3 other spots to fill. So how free agency goes will probably how free agency and the draft goes will probably correlate where AVT is placed, right?
Yeah, I guess that would be like the biggest thing. You just got to wonder if they're gonna stick AVT somewhere first, or if they're gonna let the draft play out and then stick him anywhere.
Yeah.
Which either way, I guess would work. But the first thing that you said you would do is backup quarterback, veteran backup quarterback. Do you have one specific guy in mind? I mean, there's been a plethora of names. You have whether it's Brissett, you have Tyrod Taylor, Tannehill.
Yeah, listen, I don't know if Brissett's gonna come. Ideally, if all things were equal, I'd probably lock in on Brissett. I think he's, I think he's probably, upwards to a top 35, top 40 quarterback in the league. You take away the starters, and he's your top echelon of backups. But there's two factors to that. One, he still wants a chance to start, and two, there's the fact that he might cost $9-10 million, and I just don't know if they're willing to commit that much or if they're going to have that much to commit. So
Yeah.
that would be ideal. Outside of that, like, just get me a guy that can come in here and in a pinch, in a 4-game pinch, go 2-2.
That's all that you could really ask for.
So a guy who's not going to turn the ball over and go 2-2 in a pinch. Is that Tannehill? I don't know. That might be on the low side, but I'd be completely fine with a guy like Tyrod Taylor.
Yep.
I'd be completely fine with a guy like Taylor Heineke. I'd be completely fine if he somehow gets cut. I'd be fine bringing Mike White back. I'd be fine. I'd be fine, even though he's probably going to be a little bit more expensive. Because even though he's a little bit turnover prone, but a guy like Jameis Winston, I don't know where he's coming or where he's going to go, but he's a veteran presence. That as crazy and as outlandish as some of his antics are in the back, he's been known to be a real good locker room guy. So give me a guy like that, man. Enough.
Yeah, even
there
like
you go.
Dobbs.
Jet Stan 16 says the same thing.
Yeah, well,
Jameis
maybe
Winston.
Kamala Harris. That's an interesting one, but hey, if she doesn't turn the ball over, that's all you could really ask for.
Give me a guy that can go 2-2, man. That's it. Give me a guy that can go 2-2 in a 4-game stretch.
But the thing is, too, and a lot of people aren't talking about this. Like Brissett sounds great. Tyrod Taylor sounds great. Like, I wanted Gardner Minshew last year, but now it's like, regardless, like Anthony Richardson's coming back to the Colts, he's probably gonna want to stay with the Colts.
Yeah,
and try to beat him out. And here's the thing: there's a lot of teams that need starting quarterbacks. You could argue the Patriots do, the Steelers might, a couple other teams, maybe depending on what Deshaun Watson's situation is, maybe the Browns.
Yeah.
Are they going to want to come to the Jets, or like knowing that they're going to be a backup?
Well, I think listen, Minshew, I think is following. He followed Shane Steichen from.
Yes.
He was a backup in Philly for a while when Shane Steichen was the OC. He followed him. He knows the offense. I think he understands that he's not going to beat out Anthony Richardson, but he's probably comfy, cozy there, holding the clipboard, making money with a team and an offense that he knows. I expect him fully back to be there. Yeah, he's a guy. I wouldn't mind, but just get me somebody, like I said, a veteran presence who can keep the offense at a respectable level, because that's what we've been missing the past 2 years. Listen, I've had this discussion over and over again. I'm not saying anything new you haven't heard, Liam.
Yep.
If we had even adequate quarterback play the past 2 years, we'd probably be 10-7 at worst, instead of 7-10 with 2 consecutive playoff appearances. That's my true, honest opinion. And we haven't. Obviously, Rodgers went down 4 fucking plays into the season, and Zach Wilson was just bad. For 2 consecutive years, Zach Wilson was bad.
Yeah, so. Zach Wilson, Simeon, Boyle. It's just, you can't just go bargain basement shopping every year and expect different results. It's just not going to happen. And I think that we could all agree that we all know the holes on the team. Like you said, backup quarterback, offensive line. You need some more receivers. You need another running back. So getting into some wide receivers, is that something that you want to address in the draft, free agency, both? What are you thinking?
I think they're going to address it in both. I don't think they're going to be, barring a trade. I think a trade it might be the best case scenario for the Jets to go get a viable number 2. But, in reality, the free agent market at those positions, on the offensive tackles and the wide receivers, is kind of barren. It really is. I don't expect the Jets to shop at the top of the market, although, I'd love Calvin Ridley. I think he's, talented. I think I like the fact that he can separate. I think he'd be a good compliment to Garrett Wilson.
Do the drops concern you?
No. I mean, listen, wide receivers are going to drop the ball. I don't think he's got complete Alan Lazard stone hands, but I just think that I think that he is probably going to he's probably going to demand too much money. I don't see Joe Douglas spending 18 $18 million on a wide receiver. We don't have that much money now. Yes, I understand we can create more cap room, and I'm sure they're going to have to be, but but I expect Joe Douglas to shop in that lower tier of wide receivers. So if you do that and you bring in 2 1 or 2 second or third tier guys, and complement that with somebody in the draft, I think that's probably the path that we're going to see happen. I think you can go trade for some guys, maybe. I know the big buzz today was Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy are available. And if you can find a comparable package to get one of those guys and not have to spend most of your salary cap, yeah, I'm all for that. And Joe Douglas has looked in the past to trade for wide receivers. Obviously, he dabbled with Tyreek Hill, he dabbled with Deebo Samuel, so he knows, or I don't think he's afraid to pull a trigger on a guy that can come in and help the offense now. And listen, maybe some other guys shake loose. Mike Williams, I don't know. Do I trust that guy? He hasn't stayed healthy.
Yeah.
I just think that the market, to be honest with you, is kind of barren. The wide receiver, there's there's less supply than the demand, so these guys are going to get overpaid, and the tackle class is even worse than that, man.
Yeah, not only that too, like you said, like it did dry up fairly quickly, like with Mike Evans, T. Higgins, like all those big name guys.
Yeah.
And see, like in my opinion, like money can't be a problem. Like this is like you're going all in year. Like I think that we could all agree that if it doesn't work this year, they're blowing it up. Everybody's probably losing their job. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can save someone's job or two, but like I don't want to be in that middle range, and like nobody does. Like you all want to go get like the big name. I get that. Like I kind of like Courtland Sutton. Like I'm a huge fan of his.
Mm-hmm.
Another name that's getting thrown around a lot is Brandon Ayuk. He's somebody that I'm not opposed to either. Yes, he's on the smaller side a little bit. So
he's elite. I just I would take him in a New York minute, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, he's going to probably sign long term in San Francisco. But yeah, if you can get your hands on somebody like Ayuk, all day long, I just don't think he's going to be jostle free from San Francisco. I expect him to sign long term. Listen, here's the reality: is that we're gonna have to live with the guys like maybe like Curtis Samuel, maybe a guy like, maybe we get lucky and a guy like Tyler Boyd, who's not bad. He's probably that second tier. But even that, a guy like Tyler Boyd's going to probably cost you 12, 13, 14 million dollars. You know what I mean? Maybe a guy like Curtis Samuel, not that I want to see him here. I'm not a big fan of his, but maybe a guy like Gabe Davis, like that level of receiver is probably where the Jets are going to be shopping. That's my guess.
Yeah, definitely. And then, like, I don't want to necessarily count out Alan Lazard as bad as he was last year. I'm hoping that Aaron Rodgers coming back, he'll sit there and like have a talk with him, be like, dude, like, listen, like we bought here for a reason. Like, and we've all seen his highlights. And the big consensus on him was he'll make like the big contested catches, but he'll drop the simple ones.
Yeah,
and that's really what we saw last year.
Yeah, I think he'll be better with Rodgers. I mean, I think everybody on the offense will be better with Rodgers. I mean, I think that's a given. But yeah, listen, the reality is it can't get any worse than Lazard was last year. And some of it was a direct result of just completely ineptitude. At scheming and offensive play calling from Hackett to Hack. So
yeah, this is another name, KJ Osborne. Not really opposed to that either. But do you see Xavier Gipson or Jason Brownlee making? Oh, I think Gibson's a lock to make the team. Do you think that like they take a step up? Do you think that they keep both of them?
I don't think Gibson's a bad receiver. I just don't want, I don't think he's ready to step in and handle like wide receiver 3 for the majority of the reps per game. I think he's got enough little wiggle to him, and his hands are reliable enough. Like, if he's a depth piece in the room, I'm fine with that, but having a guy like Gibson or Brownlee is not going to preclude me from going and getting anybody else. Like, they're not, right. I don't expect any big jumps out of either of those guys. Listen, they're Jets fans a lot of them don't like to hear this, but there's probably a good chance that, if we bring in 1 or 2 pieces from free agency, and if we draft a guy or 2 later in the draft, there's a good chance Brownlee doesn't make the team.
Oh yeah,
we have not invested in him.
Yeah,
he's you hope that he takes that next step of development, but he's probably a guy that's going to be pushing the 53rd man on the roster. So Gibson, I think, has a chance to stick. Because of what he can do on special teams. Yeah. And I think that, having that guy, that little gadgety quick thing is something that could be beneficial if the offensive coordinator knows how to utilize it. That's still up in the air.
Right.
So,
And the last free agency hold that we're going to get into before we get into draft talk, offensive line. Do you have any specific guys in mind? Do you think that's a position that they're going to look more towards the draft, more free agency? And I have a question for you real quick too. And this could kind of all tie into each other. Do you like, is it a situation where Aaron Rodgers wants a bunch of guys, a bunch of draft picks all learning together, like on the fly? Like, here you go, big year, here, guys, here are a bunch of rookies, go out and be great. And then you have, like we said earlier, AVT coming back from injury. You have Joe Tippmann, who has a lot to learn still, although he does have a lot of promise. The problem, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but a lot of good offensive linemen don't hit the market out of the blue.
Yeah,
you either got injury concerns, you got age. Like, there's always a reason. Like, when you have a really good offensive lineman, you don't let them go.
Yeah.
So I think that there's definitely a catch-22 with both. What are you thinking in this situation?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be addressed in both because you're never going to fill, like I said, you have 3, possibly 4 if AVT is not healthy to start the year. You have 3 or 4 starting roles to fill, unless you're comfortable with guys like Max Mitchell or Carter Warren, who, Carter Warren, I think, is a good developmental, backup swing tackle in the making. Like, he's not a guy that I'd want to cut. Max Mitchell can go fuck off for all I care. I mean, I think he digressed as year 2 came on. So, you just have too many holes. You're not going to draft all those guys, right? You're not going to spend 4 of the 7 draft picks or 4 of the 8 draft picks that you have on offensive linemen. That's just not that's not realistic. So I think you're going to attack it both ways. But the offensive tackle class in free agency, you're shopping in the dented can aisle, man. Tyron Smith, when he plays, is freaking phenomenal. But the guy's 32 years old and hasn't played a full season since 2015. Yep. David Bakhtiari, when he played, he was great. Top 3 left tackle in the league. Hasn't played a full season in 4 years. Yep. And those are arguably two of the better names at left tackle. Donovan Smith, he stinks. Jonah Williams, I'm fine with a guy like that, but again, I think he's kind of like mediocre, kind of meh, and he's going to get overpaid. He's going to get a Mike McGlinchey deal of $17-18 million. So, like you're shopping in the dented can aisle. So I think. Hypothetically, I don't think it's going to happen, honestly, and this is just my opinion, but just say it's Tyron Smith for argument's sake. Okay. I don't think you can bank on Tyron Smith and then you don't have to worry about it because you got him. I think you bank on him, and you hope that you get 10 to 12 games out of him, so you better have a backup plan in place for that. Again, I think if anything, if Joe Douglas has the wherewithal to learn from the mistakes of last year, is that he's going to secure himself depth at the positions he needs depth at, right? So yep. I think you're gonna see a quarterback quick, and I think you're gonna see a multitude of linemen, some of them good, some of them kind of bad, because that's what the market has for us. So you're gonna have to address it both ways. Like, yeah. I'm even fine with like the guard, the center and the guard free agent class is a lot better than the tackle. So if you told me you can get one of those guys, you can get a Robert Hunt, that's fine. But again, at what cost? He's going to be $15-16 million. I don't think Michael Onwenu is going to come here. I know he's a name that everyone likes because he's got a little bit of flexibility and, he's younger. He's only 25 or 26, but he's not a scheme fit for us. We can try to, like a guy because he's, young and he had a good year last year, but he's not a real fit for what we try to do on offense with our, inside outside zone scheme. He's more of a power gap kind of blocker and an average one at best. So again, do you want to pay a guy who's not a scheme fit and an average, blocker 4 years at $16 million a year? I don't know. So you're gonna have to bring in a lot of pieces through free agency, and that still does not get me off of addressing it in the draft.
I agree 100%. Yeah, like that's the way that I would approach it too. It's like like you said, get your depth pieces like really in the draft. I don't mind bringing in like Bakhtiari and like a veteran minimum or something like that, maybe a couple bucks above that. Same thing like you said with Tyron Smith. You want a guy that can step in, like you said, if have to, but you don't want them to.
Yeah.
So that's definitely like the boat I'm in. Another thing, like nobody's really talking about this, is Mekhi Becton, who obviously they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so he will be hitting free agency.
Yeah.
It's weird because when he was so big, it's like injuries, like you can't control that. And like yes, like had the Jets taken Christian Wirfs said, that's a
Yeah.
completely different situation. But you can't really fault Joe Douglas for injury history. As far as I know, I don't think Mekhi Becton coming into the draft ever had a injury history. I know he was in trouble for smoking weed once, but that's whatever.
Yeah,
So,
listen, I think the Becton, the Becton experiment. I think everyone needs a clean break from that. Like,
yeah,
it's a shame. I think he was, he was super talented. I really enjoyed, or I really thought that, the arrow was pointing up after his rookie season. And then Greg Van Roten rolled into his leg, and he wasn't the same. And last year, he stayed healthy for the most part, but he sucked. So that's just what it is. Maybe he's the nicest guy in the world, and I'm sure he is. But I'm not. We need people that can produce. So
yeah.
I think it's best for everyone, both the Jets and Mekhi Becton, that clean split. Same thing with Zach. Like, thanks for your service. Too bad it didn't work out. Good luck on your next team. That's what I would say with Mekhi Becton.
Well, the other thing with Mekhi Becton, he's also the first person to see John Cena. He posted that on Twitter yesterday, so that's definitely interesting. But, but like, yeah, like that's the weird thing with him. It's like when he lost all the weight, you wonder because like the penalties were never really a problem. At least like I don't remember his rookie year penalties being a problem. You're an offensive lineman. You're gonna hold. You're gonna grab. It's just like you're touching and you're holding. You're grabbing every play. Like yeah, you're gonna grab the face mask every once in a while. It happens.
Yeah.
But towards the end of the year, the guy was just like a walking penalty.
Yeah, listen, I think he was hurt. I think he got hurt, towards the end of the year because there was a really, there was a point where he was kind of playing okay early in the year, and then something happened, and I don't know if it was his ankle or knee or something like that, but he just lost everything, man. He lost everything. So it was it's time to move on from the Mekhi Becton scenario.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
So, getting into the draft, I love talking about the draft, but like I gotta be like I don't watch a ton of college football. It's like normally on Saturdays, and I just got like work going on, and I got family, just a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So, what I lack in draft knowledge is why I bring in the great Dom C.
Well, I don't know about that, but I appreciate the kind words, man.
So, getting into the draft now. Some players are. I mean, some people are. It boggles my mind because I don't know about you, but in my mind, it has to be an offensive tackle. It has to be an offensive lineman. I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be tackle. I don't think it's be guard, but it has to be an offensive lineman. Some people are saying, "Oh, you got to draft a quarterback to sit behind Aaron Rodgers." Like, hello, we drafted. Well, not we. The Packers drafted Jordan Love a couple years ago to piss Aaron Rodgers off, and he came back and won MVP. So maybe that is a little bit of motivation, which I wouldn't mind. This isn't the draft to do it. Some people are saying Brock Bowers. I love Brock Bowers. I've watched a lot of tape on him. However, I don't think the Jets need a tight end right now. And I get it. He's versatile. He could do it all. I said this a couple years ago when the Jets drafted Sauce. Now, granted, I love Sauce. I'm so glad that we have him. But I don't think that corner was our biggest need at the time. So in this draft, like we don't have the luxury of drafting somebody like a Will McDonald to add depth to a position that we're already loaded at. I don't think that Will McDonald was the pick last year. I think it was supposed to be Broderick Jones, and obviously the Patriots and the Steelers screwed us like they always do. So going into this draft, like, we have talked about all the holes on the offensive line. Is that what you're going with? Or do you think it has to be an offensive lineman? What are you thinking?
Yeah. Listen, I'll say this. I don't think there's one scenario, in free agency that you can sell me on the idea that you still don't take a tackle in the first round. Like I said, give me the two best free agent tackles out there, whoever they are, Onwenu and and Tyron Smith, right? I'm still taking an offensive tackle. All
Yeah.
right. You give me Bakhtiari and Jonah Williams. I'm still taking an offensive tackle. There's a couple reasons for that. One, I think that, obviously the health factor in all of these top end guys are going to be, questionable at best. And two, the talent level of the top end of this tackle class is better than it has been in many, many years. The Jets always talk about, BPA, best player available. Now there's some truth to that, but it's not necessarily always best player available. It's best player available where it matches up and meshes
Position of
with
need.
with a position of need, right?
Correct.
Which is why I think Will McDonald was a little bit funny last year. Now, I'm going to say this wholeheartedly. I was shocked when Will McDonald was taken, but I didn't hate it, and I still don't hate it. I know a lot of Jets fans do, and that's fine. You're entitled to that. To me, the Jets did with that pick what a lot of good teams do. Is they prepare, they draft a guy, a year before he's really needed. Philadelphia's synonymous for that. Baltimore is synonymous for that. New England in their heyday was synonymous for that. So I think that's really what the mindset was. The problem is that those teams had been proven and established winners. The Jets weren't there yet, right? So that's last year's draft. There's no combination of free agency, offensive lineman that you can sell me on that tackle doesn't make sense. So
Right.
I am 100% undoubtedly taking an offensive tackle in this class in the first round. Maybe it's not a 10. Maybe I trade down a little bit, trade down to, if there's a quarterback on the board and Minnesota wants to pop up a spot, or Denver wants to pop up 2 spots, or Oakland wants to pop up 3 spots. I'm fine with that. If there's multiple guys that I like the same, I'm sticking there and I'm picking, but you can't get me off of offensive tackle in round 1.
Oh, perfectly said. That's like the next thing I was gonna actually ask you on. I like Joe Walt. Like, I'm a Notre Dame guy, so yes, I am a little bit biased. Although I do think that like him and Fashanu are like the 2 best in the draft, at least right now. Do you see a situation that they trade up? If you're like at number 7 and Joe Walt's still there, do you think like there's a situation where they go and get him, or do you think that they try to trade back, maybe somehow try to get a second round draft pick? Joe Douglas does know how to maneuver and work the board, so I do have faith in that. I think somewhere somehow a second round draft pick is coming, but do you see a situation that they trade up for an offensive lineman?
Listen, I could see a situation, yeah, but I don't. I mean, sure, it makes sense, in basic, layman's terms. But hey, I'll give you my honest opinion, Liam, is that I don't think Joe Walt's going to be there. I mean, I don't. Depending, anything can happen. You guys are going to trade up in the top, but I really don't expect to see him at past pick 7. Like I think the Chargers are going to take him at 5 if they stick and pick at that spot. I think that for sure they're going to go offensive tackle. They're going to line him up on the right side. Trey Pipkins, their current right tackle, he ain't the answer, especially with Harbaugh, especially with Greg Roman in there. They want to they want to pound the rock. And that's probably where I would say him picking. But in a hypothetical situation, I just don't think that the Jets have the assets to really trade up. Like, are you going to dip into the future capital next year to move up, to take a guy? Listen, if he's head and shoulders on their board above any of the other class, then yes, it makes sense. But I just don't see it happening. I don't see them having the capital to do it this year. I really don't. And listen, Joe Douglas has never traded down
Right
in round 1 in his tenure. So that is, that's still something. Could I see him trading down? I could. I think it's more realistic that he trades down than up, but I also don't think we're going to trade down far enough to get a second rounder. I think you're going to see him trade down to like maybe a spot with Minnesota, 2 spots with Denver, 3 spots with Oakland at the absolute most. That's probably as far as we'll go. And that's not going to net you a second rounder. It might net you a third rounder. Which is fine, because then you can, if that gives you the opportunity, if you have 2/3, 2/4, and you want to move up a little bit, then that gives you the flexibility to do something later on in the draft. But yeah, I don't see him trading up for Alt.
Okay.
Mainly because I don't think they have the real capital to do that. Secondly, I don't think Alt's going to fall very far. I think he's going to be plucked pretty early. I think he's gone by 5.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So with that being said, who is the tackle do you think that we're taking at 10?
Well, I mean, I can tell you who I like. I don't know who the Jets are going to take. I mean, it really depends. Like I said, I think that there's 4 guys that
Okay.
I think that there's 4 guys that are plug and play ready tackles, and I think the guy, if they're all on the table, I think the guy that they choose is going to be the one that fits in the best to their scheme after free agency, right? So if you
Yeah.
load it up, if you got somebody like Tyron Smith in free agency, um, you know, maybe you're okay with Tyron Smith at left tackle with Carter Warren backing him up, and you can go draft the right tackle, and that gives you options. Maybe you still take Joe Walt, who can play both sides of it, so on and so forth. So I personally I'm comfortable with obviously Joe Walt, who's my number 1 tackle on the board. I really like J.C. Latham. He's my number 2 tackle on the board. He's a right tackle. I think he has the
Right.
ability to move over to the left. He's a big, strong motherfucker, the strongest guy in this draft class. I urge you or anyone who hasn't really watched him to go watch this guy on film. He's dominant. I like him. I also like Olufashanu. I
Yep.
have them really in the same tier. Like Alt is in one tier. The next tier is Olufashanu and JC Latham. The tier under that is Fuaga. And if you gave me any of those 4 guys, I'd be okay. I'd be completely fine. I don't think all 4 of them are going to be gone. So, if we needed a left tackle, then I'd probably lean Fashanu if he was there. If we locked in ourselves at left tackle, then anything's up for grabs. Like, maybe a Fuaga that they're rumored to have a lot of interest in. I happen to like Latham better than Fuaga. Not the knock on Fuaga, but I just think Latham's really, really good. I think he's really special, a special player, special talent.
Yeah, no, I like that 100%. And I guess like just keeping it the way that it is now, like obviously like we had said, the New York Jets do not have a second round draft pick. If they get one, cool. But right now it's looking like a third round pick.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing after that? Are you double dipping an offensive line? Are you going wide receiver, another
I guess
position?
I guess it really depends on what happens in free agency, but a double dip in the offensive line would make sense. Although considering that they don't have a second round pick, I see it as unlikely. Ideally, everyone wants them to get wide receivers, and I think there's going to be good talent on the board in the 3rd round.
Mhm.
I also think that there's going to be good wide receiver talent in the 4th round where we have 2 high picks. So
Yes.
don't be surprised. It's going to piss a lot of Jets fans off. Don't be surprised if that 3rd round pick is spent on the defense.
Oh,
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. Listen, to me, the Jets never had an intention of re-signing Bryce Huff. I know everyone says that Joe dropped the ball, this or that, the other thing. I could be proven wrong. They could re-sign him, but to me, I don't think a deal got done because they probably didn't see. They planned on him not being here. They gave him a second round tender last year, hoping that somebody would take a shot on the upside and they would net a second rounder. Again, that would, to me,
yeah.
that made sense. Like if they could get a second round pick for a guy that they, think is a part-time player and he's good. And I'm not a Bryce Huff hater, but I just think that in the Jets' eyes, they saw what he was
Yeah.
and how limited the limited action that they gave him really shows that they see him as a pass rush specialist, right? So they were willing to let him go for a second rounder. They drafted Will McDonald, but now Huff is going to be gone. No more Lawson. I don't know if you can count on Michael Clemens for any real uptick in snaps. So I don't rule out an edge rusher early in the draft, day 2 and in round 3.
Yeah.
That
Oh, that's gonna piss a lot of people off. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right
you
about
know what? It's gonna piss a lot of people off, but that's
it.
okay
Pisses me
because
off.
they're gonna do what they think is necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And listen, right now you have one interior defensive lineman on the roster. right? You
Yeah,
have Quentin Williams.
Quinnen.
You got
Yep.
no more Solly Thomas. You got no more Quentin Jefferson. You got no more Al Woods. So that's an area that's going to be addressed. I don't know if it's going to be addressed in round 3, but that's an area that's going to be addressed also. I could see, ideally, I would say I want to go offensive tackle in round 1. I want to go, the best available weapon in round 3, and then 4 through 7 you start taking best player available at positions of need. So that
Right.
would be wide receiver, that would be another offensive lineman, that would be interior defensive tackle, that'd be probably safety or cornerback as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of people are saying that you have to like restructure CJ Mosley, you got to restructure DJ Reed. I don't think that DJ Reed's here after next season. I think that you got to find a way to extend Michael Carter, and then like are you really gonna have 50 million in corner? It's like you have Sauce, like he's coming up. You're obviously, I would imagine that they re-sign him. I would imagine that they pick up his 5th-year option, bearing some type of crazy
Yeah,
injury.
he'll get the. I think he's the first one that will get the talk for the early extension. I think that'll happen before Garrett Wilson even. But yeah, listen. Again, you talk about DJ Reed. After Sauce Gardner, there's no cornerback, defensive back, corner on the team with a contract after next season, right?
Right.
Now, you think they'll do something with DJ Reed? I think they'll do something with DJ Reed in terms of an extension or of some sort to keep him here. You hope to God that if they have half a brain, they're gonna extend Michael Carter II, because he's arguably a top 5 slot corner in this league. And then Bryce Hall, he's an unrestricted free agent. Eccles' contract is up after next year, so again, what looks like a strength of the roster is something that's going to have to be backloaded and that pipeline built, because after next year, a lot of those guys could be gone. So
Yeah. Vinny says if you cut CJ Mosley, you instantly free up 17 million. He's in the last year of his deal. Just a thought. I don't think that they're gonna do that, considering I don't think that I just feel like they're not gonna do him like that. He is the captain of the defense. He's a locker room leader, somebody that they really look up to, really respect.
yeah.
His play has kind of dropped off the last couple of years. He's definitely not the player that we saw on the Ravens.
Well, I mean, he's also 30. He's also 32 years old. But
Right.
I listen. I get it when you free up 17 million, but I think it also comes with 10 million in dead cap. So that for every yin there's a yang. I don't see any movement in regards to CJ Mosley not being on this team. Obviously, hopefully, there's some sort of agreement or decision made on how to free up some of that space, even if some of that guaranteed money is kind of transferred into performance-based, milestones or a signing bonus of some sort that you don't kick down the road too far.
Yeah.
But something's going to happen. He's not going to play for $22 million a year. Look at what Buffalo just did today with Von Miller. Von Miller, in essence, took a $10 million pay cut. He changed his base salary from $18 million to $2 million, with the other, with the rest of it almost in incentives. So he has a chance to make more money, but he's got to earn it. I would love to see something like that with CJ Mosley. Although, who knows if it's gonna, who knows if it's really, really going to come into play. So yeah, but CJ Mosley's really the heart and soul. He's a true leader
Right.
on the team. I don't think you're just gonna you're gonna move on from him.
I don't either.
Yeah.
There's this. Would you do this? Would you flip DJ Reed for a 2nd-round pick right now?
No.
I
No,
wouldn't
I
either.
wouldn't.
I don't think that this is the I just
No,
don't think
yeah,
this is the year to do it.
I wouldn't, based on the situation that we just talked about. Like,
Yeah.
I think DJ Reed's still very good.
Yep.
He's young enough. He's very good.
He's
But
27, 28.
yeah, he's going to be 28 this year. He lines up in the same timeline as as you expect Aaron Rodgers to be here, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. Ideal, best case scenario, 3 years. DJ Reed can line up with that same time frame. And then, like I said, you're creating another hole for a shot at something else, right? So you get DJ Reed off there, and how do you replace him, right? You replace him with Eccles, who's in the last year of his contract.
Yep.
You're not going to replace with Michael Carter the second, who doesn't play the outside corner. So I don't know.
All right. With that being said, I think we're gonna get ready to wrap it up here.
Cool.
Should about 45 minutes or so. I like to keep it around there. I could talk to you for hours, man. I'm definitely gonna have to bring you back on. Maybe sometime like around the draft if you're open for it.
Yeah, man.
Open invite all the time.
All whenever you need.
Perfect, perfect. So this has been a blast. Before we go, if you don't mind, just where could everybody follow you? Where could everybody check out your content? What's the best place?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on Twitter. I'm always on there. My Twitter handle's right down there. It's at DC_NY Jets. You can also follow me. Follow my YouTube channel. It's called Project Prospect with Dom C. That is not solely Jet content. That is all draft content, 24, 365. Always talking draft there. But I got a lot of good content in regards. If you want to dig or get a little bit deeper in the weeds in regards to some of these prospects, we do a lot of positional breakdowns. I do a lot of positional breakdowns. I have other draft related guests that come on there, so on and so forth. And you can always catch me on Monday nights with I'm part of the Talking Jets network. I have a draft show with Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7 every Monday night at 8 p.m. and every Monday night at 10 p.m. with Green Bean on the Talking Jets network doing the 10 o'clock mock.
Yep. Perfect. So there you go, everybody. Go follow him. Go subscribe to the channels. He has great content. That I follow you. I watch all your videos. Big fan of the show. So just
Appreciate
wanted
that,
to
man.
thank everybody for watching. I know it's been a while. We got more content coming your way. Like I said, we got the big rebrand coming soon. We got a new co-host stepping in soon. So a lot of big things, a lot of big changes coming to this channel, but change is always good. So just because we're changing a couple things up, you're still going to get the best of me and the best of the new co-host that's coming soon. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys for watching. We'll talk Jets soon. Right.